again. I am Jim Bob and welcome back to Marwell Manor. We've been tasked by the Hollisters to restore and bring back to its former glory this kind of old rundown farm, and the first stage of that is now done. We have kind of turned the fields and prepped them as best as we can this year. They still need a little bit more TLC. We need to put some lime on a couple of our fields, field 1 over there and field 15 way over there as well, but every field now has something in the ground that is starting to grow, so the crop side of that is done. I also think that there is certainly scope for improving the amount of land that we have to work on without going out and buying any more land as well. We've got this huge great big meadow here, and towards the end of the year we're going to be chewing up part of that field over there that runs alongside field 1. We'll be kind of chewing that up and turning that into a workable strip of arable, and then leaving the first part here as a meadow for us to kind of get our grass work from. But today is mowing day. As the final day of our kind of spring period, we've, as I say, done all the important sort of field work that we need to do, so it's time for us to break open this shed and start playing with some of these toys. We have our tedder, our windrower, our baler with wrapper, and our mowers all in here, and we're going to be using most, if not all, of that equipment today. Going to start off with a little bit of hay work, I think. And I'm going to be using both of the tractors to do various different jobs, so we can kind of split the usage on those. We're going to use the 7R to do the mowing, and then the 6M will do sort of tedding and probably some bale work as well. So let's take the 7R out first. You can see we've put 13 hours on our 7R already. A lot of time has been spent in this cab doing a lot of work. We've also obviously had a worker running in here for a bit as well, so it's not all us, but certainly a lot of hours gone onto this vehicle already. A lot more still to come. We'll start off though by getting the mowers hooked up. Just checking my clearance. There we go. Let's get the rear mowers on. And the front mower. It's been a while since I've used the Lely Splendimos. I have a tendency to go with Pottinger when I do my mowing, but I just fancied a bit of a change for this one. Have these separated front and rear mowers like this. There we go. And we're going to do our grass work in stages. We're not going to do the whole field today because it's just too big a field for everything to get done, but we will do a good chunk of it today. So we've got a nice little break in the hedge line here. We'll cut up through here. So just to give you a kind of an idea of the way I'm thinking of separating this field out, if I just drive up here, give you a bit of a heads up. We've obviously got this kind of clearing area here, and then we've got this gap in the fence here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a pathway put in running alongside the hedge, and the pathway is going to run up all the way along here like this, and it's going to come up and it's going to continue sort of up here through here, and I might have a little shed or something somewhere near the top. I don't know, but the path is going to keep running up in a line like this, and then everything that side of the path, that's going to become arable. That's going to be cropland, and then everything this side of the path here, this will remain grass work. So that's how I'm planning on chopping this field up. Let's get some lights on just so I can see my boundaries. Still a little bit in the shade over here as the sun is coming up. It's behind the trees at the moment. Get the rear mowers folded down. Am I still a little close? I'm a little close. Let's move away a touch. There we go. Let's get the mowers lowered, turned on. Same with the front mower, get that lowered and turned on. I'm going to keep my working speed nice and low just to start with. And we're just going to do this kind of first section. Put a border in around this field. This is going to be what's going to become our only grass meadow until we acquire additional land. This section that I'm going to kind of carve out now. In fact, we can go a little bit faster than this. Let's push up to 12. Let's keep it controlled at 12, I think. As I say, we'll be doing all this kind of resculpting work and chewing up half of this meadow in our sort of off season. Once we've got our harvest done and our crops are in and we're waiting to take them to market, it's at that point that we'll start working this field and splitting it into those two pieces that I just described out for you. Keep the mowers away from the wall. There we go. There's our kind of guest house just there. It's where the workers tend to stay over if they're on for a long day. Move around the corner of the fence. And then this, as I say, this is where the path is going to be. This line that I'm kind of cutting up here. We'll have a pathway put in that's just going to run alongside this hedge up here. We'll use that to kind of break the whole field into two pieces. And it's this first piece that we're going to work today. So from this point it would just be a straight line up like this. And then, as I say, everything that side there would become, you know, workable land, and everything this side here would remain grass. And we may possibly have a little shed or something up here. We'll see what our needs are going to be once it's all done. But there we go. That is oh, excuse me. That is kind of the land that we're going to be the way the land is going to be split out. So you can see there, that still gives us a pretty big portion of land here as grass work. Still a really good sized grass field, even if we do chop this in half. So it just goes to show just how much, you know, land is actually here that we can do something with. I mean, like I say, that is a long stretch of ground over there. That's perfect to turn into a working field, and that'll be a very sizable extra bit of land that we can plant on next time around, next year. Bring in some additional cash. Got a very cloudy start to the day again, a little bit overcast. Weather will brighten up again as time goes on. And make sure we get good grass coverage. Doesn't matter if our windrows here are perfectly straight and perfectly formed, because we're going to use our windrower once we've tedded this grass. We're going to make hay out of this lot. Some of those hay bales we'll be keeping, because we are going to be looking to get some animals in to our farm. You know, we'll probably get a couple of cows just so I can get milk for my breakfast every morning. And then, you know, if the dairy ever reopens, it turns out, I've been sort of asking around the village, it turns out that they were shut down due to major health code violations, hence the under new management, and currently closed for business. Have to hope that the dairy is given the all clear at some point in the future, because I would like to run a dairy herd. But if it stays shut down for a prolonged period, we could always look at getting into beef instead, and it wouldn't be as profitable. It's not as much of a market for beef, but we could certainly make some good money, you know, long term. by running a beef herd instead. And of course we've got sheep that we can bring in as well, and either of those, whether we go with cows first or sheep first, or a combination of, we will need hay. And so we'll be storing some hay bales for ourselves. We'll also be taking some hay bales over to Marwell Zoo, so they have some for their livestock. Is livestock the right word for animals that are, at the zoo? Probably not, but you know what I mean. They're living exhibitions, I suppose you could call them. Their animals will obviously need some hay, or some of their animals will need some hay. So we'll take some bales over to them. We'll also be selling some as well, and the money that we make from the ones that we sell will be what we use to pick up our access key, our access for the BGA, so that we can produce BGA, produce silage at the BGA for easy selling. Now we do have a bunker on our own land here, but I want to keep that for, as and when we get into cattle. We'll need to have a ready source going forward of silage for our animals, for our cows, to making TMR. So the bunker that we do have here, rather than messing around with making a lot of silage that we'll then have to transport all the way through the village, having the BGA bunker, or having access to that BGA bunker at the biogas plant means that we can look at creating silage to sell, and sell it on site without the need to transport it across the map, from here through the village, and cut down a lot of transport costs. We won't need a large trailer to transport it. We won't need a lot of additional equipment for that. It'll cut down on noise complaints from the villagers as well. So if we have a lot of heavy machinery moving through the village on an incredibly regular schedule, the more of that there is, then the less support we're going to get from the local community. And we obviously want to try and restore this farm. We want to try and reach out to the community where we can, provide some short-term work in stages where we can, for helping out with things like the harvest, and we want to see if we can support local farm markets as well with some local produce. The last thing we want to do is kind of cause problems with the neighbours, so we'll have to take all that kind of stuff into consideration as we progress the farm. And one of the ways we can stay on the good side is to, as I say, do our selling silage work at the BGA. So I'm going to carry on mowing out this field, and once we're done, we'll get the tedder out, we'll ted the grass, and then we'll start rowing everything up, and then we'll start baling and bale up some hay bales. So I'll see you in a little while. We're almost done with the mowing. Just got this little triangle strip here that's left. There we go. So next up we'll be going to grab the 6M, and we'll be using that to do our tedding and our windrowing, and then we'll probably switch back over to the 7R for the baling. Not quite sure if I'm going to use the 6M for the baler. Probably not. There we go. So mower's all folded up. Let's get our lights off. We don't need those on anymore. Make our way into the yard, and I'm just going to park up. Actually, no, we're not going to need the mowers again for the rest of the day, so we'll go get these cleaned off. Then we'll put the mowers away. And then we'll switch back for the 6M. So I'll get everything kind of cleaned, put away, and I'll probably need to change over the setup of our 6M a little bit as well. But I'll do that, and I will see you in just a few minutes. So we're in the 6M right now, just pulling out the windrower. The tether's going to be slightly more tricky to get out. I put that in with the front attachment on the 7R, and of course we don't have a front attacher on the 6M, so it does make it a little bit more tricky. I've also switched over the wheels and put on Nokians to kind of protect the field a little bit, as we're going to be going over and that ground repeatedly, and we don't want to churn up that grass. We want to protect it because that is going to be our main grass paddock. So I don't want to churn that grass field up and have a negative impact on our grass for the next cut. So I figured the Nokian tyres will do a good job of spreading the weight of the vehicle quite evenly, because it's a much more forgiving tread. The tread on the Trelleborgs is quite severe, very ridged, and I don't want to, as I say, start churning up parts of the field just driving repeatedly over the same spot with those heavy treaded tyres. So I figure Nokians will be more suitable, protect our field a little bit better. Let's get our tether down and start getting our grass turned into hay. Yeah, I see the tether's actually swirling around a little bit at the back there. Should be okay, but we'll have to keep an eye on that. And once we've got this tethered, we'll switch it out for the Kuhn windrower that we have. And again, we'll use the 6M to run that. We'll get everything rode up nice and neat, and then see just how many bales we can get off this cut. It's quite a bit of grass that we've got to work with. We should get quite a few decent bales, I think, but I'm not going to guess how many until we've done a few passes, and how how big those windrows get as well. We'll once we've been able to see that, we'll probably be in a slightly better kind of position to estimate just how many bales we can get off this section of grass that we've cut today. And then what we'll do, weather permitting, tomorrow, and assuming that we don't have any sort of maintenance work to do on our crops in terms of maybe weeding or anything like that, is we will do some silage baling tomorrow with the rest of the grass. And again, we might possibly even split that as well. We might do half of what we've got now remaining tomorrow, and then the next half the day after that. We don't have to do it all in one go, and it's not just the time it takes to actually cut it, which isn't that long. And in terms of the hay, obviously you've then got the tedding and the rowing as well. I mean, they all add up little bits of time here and there, but it's the amount of time it's going to take to get them stacked on the back of a trailer and then shipped off to wherever, and then back to the farm and load up the next trailer and then the next trailer, and then in terms of the bales that we're keeping, unloading them and getting them safe and secure in that kind of alcove next to our cow shed. So that's what's going to take the longest time, and that's why I don't want to have too many bales sort of sitting there waiting on the fields, or too much windrowing waiting to be baled. I want to do it in stages so that we can get jobs done from start to finish. Just seems like a better way for us to utilise our time, is to make sure that we actually do get everything done in a single sort of sitting. Again, we're playing Seasons light. You know, we're trying to replicate the conditions of Seasons without actually having it. So I am going to be sort of making sure that all bales are stored indoors to prevent, and I use air quotes here, bale rot. Obviously, rot is not an issue without Seasons, but we're going to pretend that it is. I say the whole purpose of this playlist is to try and replicate Seasons as closely as we can without actually physically having it, and so we will press on as if it were a Seasons playthrough. So you might question why I do certain things that, you know, go against the base game mechanics. I'm playing to try and replicate what it's like with Seasons, rather than just what the base game wants us to do. So, plus I'm also telling a storyline as well. I've had people questioning why did I plough all of field 1, because in theory only the border needed doing. Well, because it's part of the storyline of restoring this old farm that's been neglected. You know, and a field that's been neglected is completely overgrown. You would plough that out in reality, you know, just because the in-game map suggests that you only need to plough the border. You know, it would just look a bit silly just to plough out the border only and leave the rest of the field covered in weeds and then go straight over it with a seeder. So you will see me do things that go against the logic sometimes of Farming Simulator, but it's all done for a reason. You'll have to trust me on that, and just allow yourself to be swept along by the narrative. And there we go. Yeah, pretty much done with our tedding. I think I've just missed a tiny strip over on the other side of the field. Let's just go take a quick look at that. We're ready to start rowing and then baling this field now. Did I miss a strip over here? No, looks like I got it all. I just thought I'd missed a bit of grass. Ah, there it is. There's what I missed. I knew I'd missed something somewhere. So we'll get this little bit here, and then we'll fold this up, grab the windrower, start making nice neat little piles of grass for us to work, or hay I suppose, to work with. One of the things I'm really excited about with the new seasons that is being worked on at the moment, there's some new changes coming for this new version of seasons, one of which is going to be a change to weeds. Obviously weeds will be in seasons for the first time, which is a whole new addition, and I know that Realismus have been working to figure out how to implement weeds into seasons, but one thing they've also been working on is changing the way hay is made, and now grass that's left out will just dry out over time the way it is in the real world. And if you want to speed that process up, from what I understand, if you want to speed that process up, you can use a tedder to speed the process up, but you still have to leave grass out for a period of time before it will become hay. So you can't just do like we've done and just instantly turn it into hay. There is a time delay involved, and you can kind of reduce that delay a little bit with a tedder. But I'm really excited to see how that does actually shake out once Seasons does make its way across to Farming Sim 19. I'm curious to see how they're going to implement the weeds, and I'm curious to see how well the hay changes are going to come into effect as well. A lot of exciting stuff for seasons to come, I hope. Right, we've got to try and row all this up now. This could be a bit trickier. It's a bit of a sprawling sea of light green at the moment. I'm starting to think it might be easier to have just gone up and down first and then put a border in afterwards. I suppose, you know, we should try and do it this way, see if it works out. We can always do a sweep pass at the end to tidy things up again if we need to. I definitely want to have as many neat and easy to access rows as possible, just to make it easier when it comes to actually doing the baling. You can see our soybean, no growth yet, or no visible growth yet. I'm sure there's something magical going on underneath the soil, or underneath the topsoil. But no visible growth on the field yet. I'm sure that will change in the coming days, and we'll start to see plenty of growth there. Really excited for our first harvest later in the year. See just how much money we can make off those freshly restored fields. We're going to need to get quite close to the hedge, I think, to make sure we get full coverage here. There we go. There were times when I got very, very close, and the tedder does have a tendency to just slightly widen the swath of grass that's out there, so it can push it out further than it was, closer to the hedge than it was originally. Just be careful. We can make sure that we get all of that without any major issues. I really am curious as to just how many bales we can get off this first cut that we've made. So we need to store a decent number. I'm thinking if we store... I'm going to need to store more hay than anything else, I think. Because we'll be needing hay for sheep as well as cows. So we'll need more hay bales than we will sort of straw and silage. And eventually we will move to loose silage, obviously, this just to get us started, so that we have stuff available. We will do silage baling, and we can sell a surplus of those bales as well for additional cash. but going forward, when we do actually get into dairy or beef, depending on what the situation's like with our cows, then we will be going on to loose silage and using, as I say, the bunker here at the farm to make our silage for TMR purposes. So I think we're kind of ready to start rowing up and down the field. Trying to keep it a straight line where we can. That looks pretty good. There's quite a fair bit of grass and hay on the field, isn't there? So it's going to take us a while to get it all rowed up and get it all prepped and ready. The baling shouldn't take too long. And once that's out of the way, then comes the slow and slightly tedious part of getting them all loaded onto a trailer and transferred off the field and into our storage. We don't have a bale spike yet. We have got some pallet forks and we can try using those, but we may possibly have to take a trip over to the store and go and buy some spikes, which is going to be awkward. We'll have to make do with pallet forks to start off with, because we don't have any available capital on hand, and we don't have any available credit that we can take out either. So we'll make do with the pallet forks. We'll be able to pick the bales up with those. Might be a little tricky trying to get them on the trailer, but a full trailer load will get us, I think, enough money at the very least to buy a pair of spikes, which might speed up our loading process for the remaining bales. We'll have to see how tricky it is, as I say, with those pallet forks. I'm hoping we can get it done fairly comfortably. So I'm going to push on and continue rowing up the rest of this field, and I'll catch up with you once we are almost ready to start baling. Starting to wonder if maybe we've taken on a little bit too much grass. And whether we're going to struggle to get it all done. We should be okay. I'm hoping we're going to be okay. Just going to tidy this edge up here a little bit, I think. Risking getting caught in the hedge there. There we go. Got a couple of really big clumps here that are going to be a little bit more awkward to deal with. But we should be alright. As long as we're careful, we'll be able to get all this through the baler, no problem at all. And there we go. We are rowed. So let's get this folded and closed up. let's go drop off our rower. We'll switch over to the 7R with the baler, and we'll start baling up this field. You want to place your bets as to how many I'm going to get off this section here, then do so now, and I'll make an educated guess once I've done a few of these rows and see where we end up, I suppose. No prizes for the closest answer other than kudos in the comments. It's a little bit of fun, isn't it? Right, there we go. Oops, nearly ran straight into my tether there. That could have been painful. So I'm going to do the up and down rows first, and then we'll do the border at the very end. Let's make sure the baler is on and ready. And away we go. How quickly we're going to spit this bale out. Slow my working speed down a little bit. 10 miles an hour I think will be a good speed to run. There we go. Just drop that off. That's the first of many. Just hope they don't all roll down the bottom of the hill. That's the other thing we can test, is to see whether working up and down this hill like this is an okay thing, or whether the bales are going to start rolling out of control. And if they do, then next cut we do, then we'll probably go side to side instead. Right. Oops. Oh, just about make that turn. That's pretty tight. So that's the first 3. Of course, some of these rows are going to be slightly fatter than others, so I can't base it purely on just 1 or 2 rows as to an exact amount that we're going to get, but it'll give us a good sort of approximation as to how many bales we could potentially end up with. Let's have a look. Given the changing lengths of rows, on a 1 up, 1 down, we've done, what, 5 bales? I'm going to go with between 50 and 60 bales on this section, I think. That seems like a decent kind of number. I wonder what you guys are guessing. And we'll see just how many we do end up with in a little while. I'll press on, I'll keep knocking out the bales, and I'll see you in a little while. We're about halfway through the field, and about halfway through the counts. This should be bale number 24, I believe, if I've been counting correctly. Oh, we've left a little patch there. We'll have to collect that later. But the longest passes are yet to come, so we're on kind of schedule for between 50 and 60 bales at this rate. It'll be interesting to see just how many we do actually manage to get off this second cut. I have done the border around the edge up to that point over there, and then the border that goes all the way around to the bottom, that's now been done. I've been trying to work it in stages. Oops. And so far seems to have worked. I'm also trying to space the rows out a little bit easier to make these tight turns a little easier on the baler as well. So we're kind of alternating passes up and down the field like this, and then when they're done, obviously we'll go back and we'll do the other ones as well, and then we'll finish off with that remaining part of the border. So I think there are more bales to be created on these rows here than we've created on that bit so far. Even though it's a little bit wider over there, there's a lot more grass on the field on this section, I think, possibly. I'm not entirely 100% certain on that, but as I say, we'll find out once we get to the end of our baling run. So once again, I'm going to crack on and I'll catch up with you in a little while. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I'm feeling quite proud of myself with that guess. I said between 50 and 60 bales. That bale I've just unloaded there is bale number 55. So I was pretty much slap bang on. I might get 56 bales, depending on how quickly this goes in. We might be looking at 56. Probably just under. Ooh, it's going to be close. Oh, look at that. Just made 56 bales. How close was that? There we go. So baling is done. Now we need to collect all these bales, get them loaded onto a trailer, some of which will be stacked and put away. The rest will be transported over to the zoo. I was going to say the farm for a minute. Then we're the farm. Yeah, we're transporting the rest to the zoo. So I'm not sure how many I'm planning on storing. I think I'll probably go with 30 bales. That'll leave us maybe a little bit more than that. I'll see how many I can get on a trailer. I'll be over 20. I think I can get on a trailer. And then after that, you know, once I can see how many I can get on a single trailer, that might be what we take over to go and sell, and then everything else will go into storage. So we'll be storing somewhere around 30 to 35 bales, I would imagine. And the rest, as I say, we're going to go and sell at the zoo. So let's go and put... I'll drop this off out of the way. Trailer is parked under the awning there. Of course, we're facing the wrong way, which doesn't help. I'll leave this just here for now. There we go. Wonder what my turning radius is going to be like with this trailer on as well. That could be quite tight. Might well need the front weight for this as well. Should probably go and collect that actually. Let's just drop the trailer there for a second. There it is. So that's our weight attached. Let's reverse our way back down the hill. And make our way onto the field. We'll be using the 6M with its front loader. Actually, we might need the weight for the front, for the rear We'll see how we get on with a bale. I mean, one bale shouldn't tip us over or lift our wheels off the ground. We should be okay. Trying to move more than one bale would just not be a clever idea, especially without spikes, with only pallet forks. That would not be a sensible thing to do. So we park up on some relatively flat land. I think there might be the best place for us to park. Access on either side of the trailer. A little bit of a slope, but nothing too severe. Let's go grab the 6M, get the front loader attached, find our spikes. Oh, sorry, our pallet forks. They should be there with our front loader arms, and then we'll be trying to get that that trailer loaded as best we can. Alright, how much of a mess of this will I make? I'm hoping I'll be able to do this relatively straightforward. Let's try and get at least square on if we can. I'm going to be on the other side of the trailer, I think. Given that I've loaded onto the right fork. I'm a little nervous as to how well this is going to actually transport these bales. I remember what happened back in Fellsbrunn when I tried to transport round bales and they literally shook themselves off the trailer. Although we did stack them 3 high, which probably wasn't the smartest idea. So if we're a bit more careful this time and we only go 2 high, I think we'll be all right. There we go, it's the first 2 on. Can I get a strap on those? Yes, I can. Good stuff. Right, plenty more bales to go. I'll do some of those and I'll catch up with you once I've made a bit more progress on the trailer. Because this could take some time. So this is the final bale for the trailer then. We have 25 on there at the moment. This will be number 26, which means we'll have 30 left on the field, which will transfer into our shed for storage. That's about the number that I wanted to keep, 30, so that's worked out really well. And then I'll be looking to keep somewhere around about 16 or so straw bales and 16 or so silage bales, or maybe 15 of each. We'll see. But there we go. We have successfully... Engine lights off. There we go. We had successfully loaded our trailer with 26 bales, so it's time for us to take these over to Marwell Zoo. Now, I've got to be really careful I don't turn too tight too fast and tip these over. I'm hoping I'm going to be relatively stable, but you just never know, do you? Let's get our hazards on, our beacons, sorry, and our headlights as well. Be really careful as we make our way along here. Keep the speeds nice and comfortable. No point putting my foot down and going flat out. That's just asking for trouble, because there are some pretty tight turns around here, especially this one coming up. This is quite a sharp turn if we go a little bit too fast. Oops, we have clipped something. What have we got caught on? We caught on a tree. Have to just use this little side road here for a second. Trying to stay off the estate as much as I can. I think we clipped the side of the tree, didn't we? So we'll take a slightly wider turn. We're at full lock there with the trailer. Alright, we're through. Next corner. Next corner will be fine, but the one I'm a little more concerned about is this 90-degree left-hander. If there's any traffic here, this could be bad. Something coming. I want to have a little bit more freedom than that. I can't see anything coming that direction. Alright, let's go for it. Oh, there is something coming. He'll just have to wait. We've got our hazards and beacons on. There we go. And we want to turn right here. Oh, no. It's a little bit further on, isn't it? The right-hand turn. Here it is. And once again, getting held up by traffic. But off we go to the zoo to go and drop off these 26 hay bales. And I'll see you as we arrive back at the farm, hopefully with a nice little bit of cash in our bank account. On our way back to the farm, having dropped off those bales at Marwell Zoo, we got somewhere between 10 and 11 grand for the bales, which is pretty good for a few bales. It's not too bad at all. Would have been nicer to have made a little bit more, but it's put us back in the black, which is good. We were about 2.5 grand in debt. We've now got just under 8.5 grand on hand. It's not enough to open up the BGA yet, but yeah, that was just the start. We've still got to get all of the rest of our bales off, and we'll get those put into the shed overnight. That's going to take us a good few hours, I think, and then tomorrow we're going to do some silage baling. We're not going to do the entire sort of remaining part of the field, but we're going to do some of it, and yeah, I'm expecting decent money, I think, from those silage bales. So fingers crossed we'll actually make a good amount of cash tomorrow, and then again, when we do some more silage baling, make another nice tidy little bit of cash, and that will allow us to open up the BGA and also look at maybe doing a little bit of equipment work, or maybe even instead we could look at possibly paying off some of our loan. Depends how much cash we're going to make. So we'll call it a day here, I think. This will be the end of our episode. I'm going to carry on, as I say, stacking these bales overnight, or through the night, until they're all tucked away nice and neatly in our shed, sort of back over there by the cow barn. And I will see you back in the morning. Thanks for watching. I am Joe Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor very soon.